The following podcast is an enticing media production. Thank you for listening to this podcast. You are now socially obligated to pour yourself a drink, and welcome to the Drunk Squirrel.
I don't know why you wouldn't enjoy that.
Oh, many reasons.
Okay, fine.
They roll the stairs out in Bermuda, and okay, get off. But I mean, you're in paradise. Who cares?
That's exactly right. Well, they used to do that in Punta Cana.
Okay.
The very first time we went to Punta Cana, it was, out onto the tarmac and, the whole 9 yards. And Punta Cana now, well, we haven't been there since pre-COVID, but we had subsequently been there twice after that first time, and the airport has just grown to the point now where they have jetways and all that stuff. You don't enter onto the the tarmac anymore.
So for as much as I hate flying, I am an aviation nerd to some degree.
Which is odd.
I know. Well, planes are fascinating. They are.
Planes are very fascinating. Flying in general is fascinating.
Yes.
The fact that you can get that giant, heavy hunk of metal off the ground is very fascinating.
And that I do understand is statistically the safest way to travel.
That's what they say.
But, if I'm going to die, I'd rather do it at my own hands flying down a highway.
But if somebody just smashes into you, it's not really at your own hands.
In theory, I could dodge.
That's
and
good.
I can walk better than I can fly, and I can swim better than I can fly. So,
You've thought this out.
Just a few times.
All right. So I'm going to start by saying that my plan is, because of the nature of this episode, and if you've already read the title and the description, then maybe you know what's coming. If you haven't, then you don't know what's coming. I plan to do minimal editing on this episode because I want it to come across authentic without it sounding like we took things out. If you're okay with that, that's my plan for this episode.
I am. Are you expecting to cry? Are you expecting me to cry?
No, I'm not expecting to cry, but I want it to be authentic.
No, and
because it's a topic that it's not an easy one for either of us. This is kind of like our baby.
I've got a couple, but yeah, this has been something that you and I have jointly birthed and grown and created a whole thing with.
It's weird to think that we jointly birthed something.
Hey. I've been through 2 birthing processes. None of it was pretty.
No. I'm sure that's very true.
Yeah. So, but yeah, authentic because this is a real conversation. This is a real point of life, and that's part of where we're at, where this is the last call.
This is the last call. And before we get into that, we're sitting in the dining room right now.
Yes.
We're in the satellite studio,
which is your kitchen, which is
yes
closer to a different set of alcohol.
Yeah, it really is. So we needed to get this episode recorded, and Nell had some client work that came up a bit last minute, so she has to be on her computer, which is normally the studio, which is where we usually record. So I have moved our mobile equipment out into the kitchen/dining room, and here we are.
What's funny is when we started this whole thing,
yes,
one of the areas we talked about was using your bar setup downstairs.
That is true.
We never recorded in the bar.
I should have done that. Well,
we drank every time.
There may, as we talked about earlier, that still could happen down the road. You never know.
Yeah, so being up front, last call is a pretty good name for this, or idea, or however you want to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have arrived at a point and a chapter in each of our lives where time is at a very high premium.
That is an understatement.
Yeah, you've got travel and radio and video and... You were going 10 different ways to Monday.
Don't act like you're not.
I am, but I'm in a whole different stage.
Well, they're very different reasons, but you're not any less busy than I am, and so.
Yeah, and I'm looking at really 6 to 18 months of pure chaos in my life.
Yeah.
With what I've got in the pipeline.
You've reached the point in, your family's lives, your children, that they're just, how children are. They grow up and they get into stuff, the stuff that they like and enjoy, but they can't get there on their own.
Into everything.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
And it's wonderful to see them grow and blossom and see the things that they enjoy doing. But at the same time, it requires a lot of your time because, again, they can't get there on their own.
So when you and I started this, Ray was 12.
Wow.
And Addie was 9.
Okay.
He's now 15 and Addie's 12. Whew. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's crazy.
The initial talks of it was just shy of 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. When you proposed to me, actually
sitting
very close to where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. That, hey, let's do this crazy podcast thing together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's, you and I can sit around and BS for well over an hour. I've seen you do that with almost anyone.
I like to think that yes, I do that.
You do.
I do that.
So one of the early pieces of the conversation I remember having with Nell was I was not able to place kind of who or how or even what you were in fitting in. And
I still don't know what I am in fitting in anywhere.
Redneck beach bum.
Okay. I like it.
I remember talking to her. I was like, wait, he's a redneck beach bum, isn't he? And that was, the light bulb went off. But that was in that early conversation.
I don't take any offense to that at all.
Well, I mean, you run a radio show that is effectively, hi, I'm a redneck from Pennsylvania who is wishing I was on a beach being a bum.
Yeah. That all sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about right.
I've listened to your radio show. It is right. And I love it.
Well, I'm glad that comes across. So, what are we drinking here, Rob? I'm gonna say what I'm drinking, and then I'm gonna hand you the bottle so you can introduce what you're drinking. So I'm drinking just straight up Larceny bourbon on the rocks. If you're not familiar with Larceny, it is a good, solid weekday sipper. It's not super expensive here in Pennsylvania. I think it's about $29.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
30 by the time they've hit you with the tax.
Yep. It's good. It's smooth. It's not going to knock your socks off, but I do enjoy it, and so that's what I'm having. So, Rob, what are you drinking?
I walked in, we started talking a bit, and I was like, all right, what are we drinking? You're like, oh, you got to try this. And you brought up a bottle of Westward whiskey. It's a single malt. It's the True Northwest?
Yeah, I think it's Oregon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I splashed it around a bit, got some on the cork for the nose, and it's got a smooth nose to it. I was getting notes of chocolate out of that, which I've never had from a non-sweetened liqueur.
Yeah,
whiskey.
it's a very good whiskey. My father-in-law Randy and I, Randy brought this over here, and him and I had the better part of half a bottle on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have better part of half a bottle tonight.
Well, it's really good. So drink up. I know there's plenty more where that came from, by the way, because he gets it by the case or so. Every quarter.
That's how Randy buys his alcohol.
Yeah, that's how Randy rolls.
He just needs to upgrade from the case to the barrel at some point.
Oh man, how much fun would that be?
Well, to go and see it barreled,
yeah,
and then have to wait. How many years are you waiting? Oh, that would be neat.
That'd be a fun experience. I know Jeremy has dabbled in that just a little bit.
Has he?
Yeah, I'd like to actually have that conversation with him. He's sent me some things about it, but I don't really know the details. But I do know he's dabbled in that just a bit. He's quite the connoisseur.
Yeah,
for bourbon.
I can't imagine that's cheap. I mean, it's
I would
also
assume
pay
not.
Some end of some dividends into it, but yeah.
That's a conversation we should have had at some point.
Craig's got a lot of land and a barn that I don't think he knows half of what's in there.
Oh, no. We could
just go make a still and put a couple barrels.
One of us could move in there, and I'm not sure he would realize it.
You're assuming I haven't been living there, that my wife hasn't kicked me out.
You know what? That is true. Two things. One, I don't know that he would know it, and two, he wouldn't care. Actually, he'd probably like it because he'd disappear in the evening, and Kayla would be like, "Where's Craig? Oh, he's hanging out with Rob or Kenny,
She'd probably be happy.
drinking
thank
bourbon
God
and
somebody's dealing with him other than me.
watching the sports." Which doesn't sound like a bad gig, if I'm being honest.
Craig, be our sugar daddy.
Craig. Wow. Craig is the sugar daddy.
But we've had some amazing guests in the past 2.5 years of doing this. I mean, I was trying to think of everyone we've had on, and we've had a huge range.
You know who we were just talking about this weekend, actually, on Sunday? We went and filmed at the old train station in Lebanon.
Yeah, I saw you put some videos and stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you putting out flyers for 3?
Well, that was part of it.
Okay.
They are partnering with us for the video that's going to be released on this Friday, which this episode won't come out till Monday, so the video will already be out. But yes.
And is that the video up on Kenny and Nell?
It's going to be on Kenny and Nell, yes. But the super secret guest in the video, it's not even really a guest. So Kelly Johnson took the auto train to it's outside of Orlando. I forget what the town name is that it goes to, and she asked if before she left, she's like, do you mind if I recorded my whole trip, and if you guys like it, you can use it. So she recorded the whole auto train experience, and we're uploading that on the Kenny and Nell YouTube channel on Friday.
Very cool.
And Nell and I went to the train station. We got lucky enough that a train came by.
Yeah, they tend to do that.
Yeah.
There.
And so we're just filming a little opening and also filming the spot promoting the Three Legacies Wrestling that's happening in Lebanon in March. So
nice.
Yeah. So that's what we were doing down there. But anyway, when we left there, we went. That wasn't part of the story.
That was a highlight to it.
It was a highlight, yes. But when we left there, we went down to Brothers Food Max. And because Randy had no idea it existed, and then we learned later that one of the houses there that was in that parking lot that was
torn down.
That was torn down to do all of that was Randy's grandmother's house that he grew up in.
Wow.
Yes. And that was a little piece of information that we found out while we were drinking whiskey later on that day.
Wow.
It was cool. But anyway, he didn't know. We went in. We got empanadas. They made them fresh because they didn't have any in the case. So they literally made them fresh for us. And Randy was blown away. He's like, I had no idea this was here. And so we gave him half of the empanadas. We kept half of them. And then he came over later when we were having the whiskey, and he's like, dude, those were amazing. He said they were unbelievable. And he's like, we need to go there. And he said all that other food they had. And I'm like, yeah, you need to try some of that because Crazy Book Lady turned us on to, or at least turned me on to Brothers.
And have you tried the Puerto Rican bakery just up on 9th?
We have not, no.
Oh, my gosh. That is well worth just losing your diet for.
I lose my diet daily.
Wow.
Yeah, don't we all?
But, yeah, you got to try the Puerto Rican bakery.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
There are some amazing small food spots in the city of Lebanon that a lot of people have never heard of.
I think that's one of those things that you and Nell at least get Becky, do a video food tour. She knows the spots.
Honestly, Nell and I have talked about this. We haven't done enough in our hometown. We want to try to do something with Union Canal this spring or summer when the weather is nicer, and just get out to some spots in and around Lebanon.
You know one of the boat drivers up at the Union Canal.
I do?
Yes, you do.
Who?
Bob. I'll give last names.
Bob Dowd?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You didn't want to give last names.
Yeah, I was trying not to. But yeah, Bob.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's one of the boat drivers to the canal.
Oh, we can get him. We can film a video.
Yeah.
While he takes us out on the boat.
Yeah, and he's a cigar and whiskey guy as well.
What's that on a boat, eh?
Yeah.
Wonder if he's allowed to drink whiskey and smoke a cigar while he's driving the boat.
Probably not, but I've sat down and had cigars with him.
Well, then we can just get him back here then.
Yeah. Well, and
you'll be required to attend that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I had to, it was the Donut Sunday last time you and I recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah, earlier in that week, I needed help because I had to get all those donuts to the church. So I called Carla Dowd.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I did was I said, I need I need a co-conspirator and I need an alibi. And they're just fun people. They're good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. They are really good people. Speaking of Carla, I felt bad.
Did you say no?
Well, I had to.
Oh.
I had to because we were planning this Florida trip.
Yeah.
And the idea originally was that we were going to go over Easter because Christina's boyfriend, Ben, wanted to take like one day like less off of work or something like that. And he had off, Good Friday. And, so do I. And,
It gets you that extra day for a trip.
It does. However, the problem is the prices were ridiculous for flying. They were like $400 or $500 a piece on Allegiant. It was insane. So that's when we didn't end up. So we're flying out the Thursday after Easter. So it turns out I probably could have done it anyway. Yeah, but we didn't have it booked yet, and I didn't want to commit to that and then not be able to. I didn't want to double book.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is we've done a Living Last Supper at the church since long past any memory I can get out of anyone.
Yeah.
It's been something that has been. But we stopped in 2020.
Yes.
And this is the first year they're doing it again.
Yes.
So
I'm assuming she filled my role already at this point.
I certainly hope so, because I was on that short list of if we need someone, you're on that list.
Well, I'm assuming. And I probably, once I got into reciting it, I probably would have remembered it's been 5 years.
Well,
or more than 5 years. It would have been 2019 would have been the last
6
time
years?
we did it. So 6, yeah.
Well, the hard part is always watching as Craig was up there, Rob Lowry's up there, you're up there, and you three are each antagonizing each other as the whole bit is going on.
I got news for you. Rob Lowry is the worst. He's literally like creeping up my leg with his hand.
I know.
In the middle of it. And, you're trying to keep a straight face, and he's literally just almost tickling your...
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Kenny's Nuggies.
Yeah, he's almost tickling the nuggies. And it's just... Yeah, Rob Lowry is...
He's an instigator.
I wouldn't want him any other way, let's just say that.
That makes sense for where Craig gets it from.
Yeah. I wouldn't want the guy any other way because, he is the life of the party, and I say that in a very endearing type of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Craig.
Yes.
We give each other a lot of crap, all of us, but...
hey, they show up, it's going to be fun.
Craig's one of those guys that would do anything for you, just not right now because there's too much hockey.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I feel... So, I've got 15 and 12,
and
they're maxing out my schedule.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they do it.
I don't know.
They've got hockey
and
gymnastics and hockey, gymnastics, and something else. Holy smokes.
The week that Nell's dad was on the radio show, this goes back a couple of weeks now, I think, Craig and Lexi were at Mix.
Yeah.
Watching the hockey game, the USA-Canada hockey game. And Craig wanted us to come out after the show. And, it was just like, normally after the show, we go to bed.
Okay, so that USA-Canada hockey game, I felt bad for Canada. I wanted the U.S. to win.
I didn't watch the game.
Ooh.
However, I said just this past weekend I'd like to get into hockey just a little bit more. Because I've gotten out of basketball a bit. The NBA just doesn't keep my interest anymore. And it might be because the Sixers are such a mess. But I just have no desire to watch basketball right now. And it's like, man, I need to get into hockey a little bit.
I'd say watch a boxing match, but we did that, and it was disappointing.
Oh, yeah.
The Tyson...
Yeah, that kind of sucked. So that Woodward, or that... what is it, Woodward?
Westward,
sorry. That's pretty good.
Oh, my
You're
gosh,
going for
yes,
number
it
2,
is.
so that's a good thing.
I'm topping off just a bit. Ooh.
Good. I'm glad you like it. I'll have to pass that along to Mr. Kreiser
Oh yeah,
because he's a big fan.
Randy, good stuff.
He's a big fan of that. But yeah, I guess we kind of digressed a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Which is what we do here on the Drunk Squirrel.
So we've had some good guests. That's where
Mhm.
we were at. And it was in there. I mean, we were reflecting on different journeys with our guests, things that have been experiences.
Craig, Nate was on.
Randy, we
Randy.
had Becky Daubert, the
Jeremy.
crazy book lady, Jeremy, Brandon. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
a lot of guests over the time. Santa is still a wild one.
Santa's still one of my favorites just because.
So I have him booked for a Christmas in July at the church.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's fun.
It's going to be a blast.
He was a good dude.
I am trying to find. I texted Craig about this, and I'm disappointed. I'm trying to find either a 2-toed or a 3-toed sloth to get it at the church for this summer for one of the kid things I do.
I don't know where you're going to find that.
I have no idea. But I figured Craig might have a lead, and I was disappointed when the answer was no, followed by, if you find one, let me know.
You know, I don't know. This may be completely off base, but did you ever think about asking Bugman?
Yeah, Bugs.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, he just
might have a lead, and
that's what I mean.
And I should follow up.
I just mean, does he maybe know somebody because he's, I don't want to say he's in the business, but,
He's kind of there, science educator, animal educator.
Correct. So I just thought,
I've got some emails out to zoos who do educational programs, so I'm working it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Sorry, random aside.
No, that's all right. Go to Costa Rica. That won't be a problem.
Well, yeah, but I think it will be a problem trying to get it back in country.
Oh, well, you're not going to be able to bring it back with you.
And I mean, TSA is going to be way too happy to feel me up on that one.
Yeah, you're going to have to do it in Costa Rica. You're not going to be able to bring it back. We saw some sloths in Costa Rica. That was really cool.
I can see that pitch. Excuse me, can I fly a bunch of kids to Costa Rica to see a sloth?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. That is bringing some culture to their lives.
Well, I mean, there's conversation about what an international mission trip would be.
That'd be cool.
I kind of slow pitched the idea to you guys last year about helping coordinate some of the flight stuff for that.
Yeah,
so I mean,
that's something we can certainly help out with.
There are some raw pieces in place, just nothing yet.
It's nice to see some raw thing. Raw. That's weird. It's nice to see some things like that happening at the church because for so long, everything kind of got axed before it got started.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see some of the progress that's been made with the outdoor stuff. And, I've been saying for a while that, I remember way back in the day, we used to have the church picnic used to be over at South Hills. And it's like, has anybody walked around our property? Like, why are we not doing it here?
And we have been for 9 years now.
Yes, 100%. And originally it's like, what are we doing here? That
first year I was here, we had it at South Hills, and then we switched over.
Yeah,
and everything started here.
Yeah, there's a beautiful ground. I say we, like I actually go to church, which that's a whole.
Oh, you're still a member.
That's a whole other topic. One of which maybe I'm not quite proud of, but it is. We're here.
You're still connected,
and that can also go the other direction at any time. But there's some amazing grounds. The building itself is beautiful. Inside is beautiful, but outside there's some amazing space. And I think church is best when it gets outside of the four walls. That's my opinion.
So what's a point of conversation about every 2 to 3 months now?
What's that?
Which means, when the conversation starts diminishing to that time scale, it's getting more support.
Okay.
Outdoor porch.
Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah.
There used to be a trustee president.
That was very much a proponent for that.
Which, by the way, as of recording this, you realize, it was like 3 days ago, marked something like 7 years from the steeple.
Oh, you know what? You know what's too funny about that? On Sunday, we drove down 12th Street, coming back from Brothers, dropping Randy off back at their house because they live right around the corner there. And I'm driving down the street, and I was like, man, that steeple looks really good on that church. It must have been an awesome trustee that helped with that.
You know, I only have one disappointment from that trustee's work on the steeple. No, I lie.
What's
two.
that?
Two. I have two.
I can't wait to hear this.
He couldn't get the bells.
Yeah, that's true. That's
and
true.
it was funny watching you because you were like, I'm going to get these damn bells to run again. And you were climbing up into like the weirdest parts of the steeple.
I wanted to.
Tracking down a bullhorn, where this cable went that went into one of the weird back rooms of storage behind like 5 different skeletons. And you're like, I found the cables!
But no bell. You know, the whole steeple situation at the church was a lesson to me. And it was a lesson in it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
You just described my job. What just happened? Blame the youth director. All right.
Be like, they can't do anything after the fact. They're not going to fire you.
Well,
I doubt that. But yeah, it was one of those deals where when the final decision kind of had to be made for the style that it was going to be, you know, the steeple book. Who knew that a steeple book existed? First
off,
a
whole catalog of steeples. I remember you showing me.
It is out of. It will blow your mind. Like, you didn't know this. It was like a Sears catalog for you older people out there. It was like a Sears catalog for steeples. And at some point, I was just like, they were like, this is what, they were, it was a
company out of Texas, wasn't it?
Well, the steeple company, but was Funk, Arthur Funk.
Oh, yeah.
And Dave Funk has a connection in some way to the church.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, Dave sort of recommended this one for the style of the church and this and that. And I'm like, sold. And I literally made the decision sitting there in the office at K&S Auto because they were there with the steeple book at my job. And I'm like, if I take this back to the board, we're going to kick this back and forth for 3 months. And there's going to be a giant hole in the church that whole time.
There's a church out in Myerstown. Their steeple hasn't been on for like 9 months.
That's probably what's happening there.
Yep. You made the right call. It's a good steeple.
I'm like, Dave Funk knows our church. He knows our members. And I trust him. I trust his opinion, aesthetically speaking, with what he's looking at and knowing our church. And it turned out it was amazing.
Well, and I mean, he's one of the guys who works in this area on a multitude of projects.
Oh, tons of it.
He knows.
Oh, yeah.
He knows his stuff.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to have the experts there, you need to let the experts do their job.
Yeah. And sometimes just sit down, shut up, and
I'm a firm believer in that, man. Do not micromanage the extras. Otherwise, just do it yourself.
Exactly.
So,
and then when it doesn't turn out the way you want it because you did it yourself, see that you didn't consult your expert.
That's always my opinion. If you're gonna get an expert there, allow them to be the expert.
Yeah. How did we get here?
I don't know. I never know how we get anywhere.
All right.
But anyway, let's bring this into the topic at hand.
What's ahead?
Not much.
Okay, let me rephrase that. So we have looked and we said that, we have to be done with the Drunk Squirrel. Yep. My time and your time.
For now, yes.
Yeah. And it's that for now.
Yes.
Like we're not saying it's totally done.
Yes.
It's not done.
Right.
But if we find a time and a space in our lives again, it's something that you and I would both like to resurrect.
A lot is going on in our lives with a lot of the things that we have our hands in, radio, YouTube, and then jobs like my job and Nell's, job running our business and stuff that actually pays real money.
Well, and that is a key point where it's okay. You have a job, Nell has a job, I have a job, my wife has a job.
Correct.
These things are what pays the bills.
Right. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And, we just came to a point where, I got so busy and you got so busy that we were having conversations about when are we going to squeeze this episode in and where can we find a half an hour. And at some point the content suffers.
Right.
And we don't want to feel like we're just putting content out there just to put it out there.
Because what this has been something that is quality conversation.
I think
connection.
I think so.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Where it's been, I can look at the times that we have had, and it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the format is good.
Mm-hmm.
The premise is good. The guests that we have had, I don't think there's any guests where I've been like, yeah, absolutely not. Never.
There's not a single guest that we've had on that I wouldn't have back.
And there have been political differences with our guests, but you and I don't dive into politics because it's not life-giving.
No.
And
all it does is suck the life out of you, to be honest.
And what we wanted out of this was the connection. We all have to have a drink, alcohol or not.
Sure.
And we've gotten to know people. I mean, I got to meet a guy and learn about WWE.
Yeah, right.
That was never on my list of things I thought I would do.
That wasn't on your bingo card, as
Nope.
they say?
You got thrown out of a plane.
Honestly, if it was not for the Drunk Squirrel, there's a chance that I would have never in my life gone skydiving. Because that triggered Craig into, I'm gonna just choose something and we have to do it, right? But if it wasn't for the Drunk Squirrel, that probably does not happen.
Yeah, and I mean these have been good moments.
Yeah,
and we see that, and it's there's hope for what is to be. You and I are still going to hang out. We're still going to find times to drink.
Yes,
but we're removing the pressure of the microphone because
we are.
That's a lot. And an episode may crop up occasionally. It may not. We'll see.
Yeah, that's something we talked about a little bit, and I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I could totally see sitting around at some point on a day, like on a Saturday or something like that, and we're just having some drinks, and of course what happens after one or two drinks. Yep. Be like,
can you put your pants back on?
Well, there's that. And it's like, hey, let's grab the microphones.
Let's just have some fun.
Just for old time's sake.
Yeah.
Something like that. And who really knows? They say when you're doing podcasting, radio, YouTube, whatever it is, be consistent. Consistency. And while all of that is true, but sometimes also being spontaneous comes across really, really unique. And I'd like to, maybe keep it open for that.
Yeah, and again, this is something that has been a child of ours, and it may find a place, it may not, but our friendship continues. What is this connection and this moment continues for us. It's just, you seem to be out of something in that glass.
Hold on. I want to try not to drag the laptop off of the
not
kitchen
drag
counter.
the whole recording setup.
I love that I moved this whole setup out into the kitchen all by myself. And then Nell came in and helped me set up the Logic, actually.
Verified?
Yeah, she came in and did the technical work. I did the grunt work, and then she came in and did the technical work because that's what she's good at, and that's what I'm not good at. So,
well, again, that's a life. That's partnership.
Yeah.
But, so it's one of those things. We're just going to wait and see and go from there.
Yes.
So
I believe that. But for now, this episode that you're listening to, for now, will be the final episode of the Drunk Squirrel podcast. Don't everyone cry.
Hey, we haven't cried yet.
We have not.
But
I hate when things end like this. And I don't want to say end, but something had to give. And this is the thing that has to give right now.
Yeah. And this was a point in both of our lives of, okay, this is that point that has to give. So
yeah,
and it's fair. I mean,
yeah,
I'm borrowing from another podcaster that I follow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a life with chapters, and the chapter that has been these past 2.5 years has been excellent. It has been good. It's been good to grow, connect the friendship that you and I have, and have microphones on a significant portion of it.
Honestly, that's probably the best thing that has come of this.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's brought us a little bit closer, just because it had to.
Well, it's neat even being able to listen to how the friendship has grown and developed, how we've connected with other people that are in each of our circles.
Yeah.
And, again, there's that mutual connection. It's not isolation. We can talk with anyone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which, again, when we started the conversation, it was 2022, coming out of COVID, and still elements and pockets of isolationism and, fear.
You proposed to me on a Friday after work?
I did.
We were leaving. I don't even remember where we were going, to be perfectly honest.
You were going down to Ocean City that
night.
night.
That's ironically enough, that's where we're going this weekend. So it was the beginning and the end.
Hey, it fits.
End.
It works.
The end-ish.
So, all right. Which means I have, because you keep eyeballing that computer, which tells me we're about...
Well, no, I keep eyeballing the computer because the screen keeps going. And, the screen shuts off every
We got to be getting close to 45 minutes, though.
Mm-mm.
No? Where are we at?
35.
35?
I'm surprised as much as we've rambled.
Wow. Yeah, me too.
But we can still...
We still have a couple.
Yeah.
All right, but that leaves me, though, with this, and this is a good spot to start gathering our conversation.
Yes.
And it's a fair question for... Oh, you're smiling. You know where I'm going.
I have an idea. I was for the probably the only time in the history of this podcast I'm prepared.
What's your final nugget of wisdom? You got one nugget left.
I'm like John Kruk. I only have one nugget left.
I worked. I worked for a guy.
Did you work for John Kruk?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
but I worked for a guy. Great guy. He had testicular cancer, and he was down to one.
It happens.
It does. And he was waxing and waning because one of the options he had when they removed the cancerous testicle was that you could get a prosthetic.
For what?
Your testicle.
Yeah, I realize, but what's the point of it?
It's there.
Okay.
This is what we had like a 30-minute conversation with driving to the job site. Why do you need a prosthetic? Some people do.
That's a fair question because I want to know this. I want to know the answer to that question because I'm thinking, who cares?
I think his end conclusion, if I remember correctly, was that it should come like the Nike Air Jordans.
Sure.
So that you can just, inflate.
No, those were the Reebok pumps.
Oh, Reebok pumps. I don't remember.
Yeah, they had the basketball on the tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that you could,
Again.
Or his second option was one that made like that duck sound.
I'm going to tell you this.
You have two testicles or one? And the second one is a prosthetic.
I believe I have two testicles, yes.
Oh.
However, aside from the pain of removal, I don't know that if you took one, I would notice. That's all I'm going to say. That's what I'm saying. Why the prosthetic? Like, it can't do anything. I mean...
How would you not notice?
I mean, do you just stand there at night and feel if you have two balls?
No, but how would you...
How? I'm just saying.
Okay.
Man, it's a shame for this to end.
Oh, my gosh. We're going out in a blaze of glory. Great balls of fire.
I'm not editing this shit out. I'm telling you right now.
You shouldn't.
I am not. It's staying. It is staying.
I can't wait for the text from Craig's.
Oh my God. Oh my God. But anyway, where you were going with this
Kenny's
was my final
wisdom.
nugget of wisdom is just if you have an idea to do something like this, just do it. Because 3 years later, it might be some of the most fun you've had. And you don't know it at the time. And you're like, should I do it? Should I not do it? 3 years down the road, you might be like, man, that was a whole hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
So,
oh my gosh.
As you said, to wrap the Nike into it, just do
it. Yeah, and I mean, my whole piece in this, Rob's nuggie, be bold.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an idea, don't just internalize it and think it'll happen, but never do something. Do it.
Do it.
Be bold.
If there's one thing I learned in just to take the be bold to another level. So one thing I've learned through some of the radio and YouTube stuff that we do is you just need to ask. You need to reach out to people and ask, because you may be like, what's this person's not going to answer me, or this, whatever, this company's not going to answer me or whatever. And there's a chance that that's true. They're not going to. But there's also a chance that, for the most part, what I've experienced is the reward is they actually are going to answer you, and the reward is very high. Yeah,
and a real world analogy to that is J.K. Rowling's. You know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, she sent her book to multiple publishers who all said no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sent it to a publisher, accidentally sent it to the wrong wing of the publisher. And they were like, oh, yes.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I mean, gee, I don't know. They're now friggin' amusement parks.
I was going to say that worked out pretty well.
It did. So I
mean,
mean,
for both parties.
Even with a no, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means you haven't found the right people.
Yes.
You haven't found the right moment that it needs to be brought into the world.
100%.
And I think one of the great areas to actually bring out a final closure to this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the things you said early on in this whole conversation as we were figuring it out was about developing your voice in doing podcasting, how you speak, what that sounds like, what is your style, presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the second podcast. I've now have kind of 3 that I'm connected to.
Yeah, because you have one you're going to continue to be doing.
Yeah, and
so you're not getting out of podcasting.
No,
neither am I. Totally.
And we'll close out with where you can still find us.
Mm-hmm.
But podcasting has been something that I have found my voice with, and found a level of confidence I didn't know I was actually capable of, or that my voice had a degree of matter. And it's been neat to actually be continuing to develop and learn that, but also see how that has grown for you with everything you were doing.
We've both come a long way in this, Rob.
Oh my gosh!
Not just from the podcast itself, but in everything that has grown off of it. I mean, the Drunk Squirrel actually will never die, simply because there are so many branches of it in all the other things that we're doing that can be traced back to starting here and getting a voice and, kind of cutting our teeth, even back to, the podcast that you had before we started this.
Yeah.
The 42 podcast.
Yeah, and I mean, that helped me find my voice in a lot of ways, and in a time where I was trying to figure out what it was, because there's a whole story of rejection that goes into the 42 before that started, but then using the 42 and finding a piece of my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Drunk Squirrel, growing in that, and growing in the connections, growing in how I talk to, interact with, but seeing likewise how you developed as well, because you're doing a radio show that is taking off. It's wild.
It's fun.
I'm a fly on a wall for that show. It's amazing.
You're there though, because last week, not that I didn't think you were, but at the end of the day, everybody's got stuff going on, right? So you might be there at the beginning, and then, Addie might be on a horse and you might be out there, or, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a requirement, but, I remember, going through the shout outs and stuff like that. And it was like, well, Rob was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here. If you are, hello. And you jumped in, you're like, yeah, I'm, whatever.
Fly on the wall.
I'm fly on the wall. And so you were there.
And I had no appreciation for Trop Rock when you started that show. I was like, what the hell is this?
To be honest with you, Rob, I didn't have the appreciation for Trop Rock that I have now.
You had a better appreciation and knowledge.
I mean,
because of Jimmy Buffett.
That may be, yes.
I had nothing.
But it is a reach that I didn't really know existed, honestly, and it's been something.
Oh my gosh, it has been something. You are connecting with artists, you are doing interviews, you are, I mean, you're full on Kenny DJ.
It's kind of wild, actually.
Spinning the discs.
But spinning the discs.
Yeah, and it's.
I like how we say spinning. We're not actually spinning anything. Maybe back in the day.
You're sitting in the chair like, wee.
I'm just spinning around in the chair pushing buttons. Yeah, it's funny we say spinning because it's kind of an old school thing to say in the radio world. But, yeah, I mean, there's... It's just interesting to see what leads you to certain areas, and your 42 podcast led you to here, and that led you to the other things that you're doing, and it's all intertwined. Honestly, it can all be kind of led back to the Drunk Squirrel.
It is, and I mean the Drunk Squirrel has been a key piece of a lot of development, a lot of growth, a lot of connection, just a lot of points of opportunity.
I learned how to not say and so often. Do you remember back when we started this?
I know, because
I was so pissed off at myself after every episode that I was editing. Be like, what is wrong with me?
Every time we did an episode, like 3 days later, you would start texting for about an hour. You're like, what the is wrong? I said and
Yeah.
and you hated it. And I remember telling you, just hang in there. You're going to get it. It's going to be a couple months, but you're going to get it, and you're going to figure out what your pause words are, and you'll be okay.
You need those pause words when you're podcasting.
You do.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a few that I hang on to.
We have to.
But it's not the end of the world. And then you realize that, when you entirely sterilize it, it sounds bad.
Yeah, you can't. And that's one of the things that Nell actually taught me very early on. It was, I was, because editing would take for absolute ever. And part of that was I was just new to the software that I was using, which is a thing. But part of it is I was attempting to take everything out, and it sounds choppy when you do that. So you can't take all of those things out.
Yeah, you have
when
to have
you're
some
editing.
level of background.
Yeah.
So some pause, breathing, and weird noises. You don't pick them up as much when you listen, but now that I've said it, you're like, you just breathed weird.
Well, you don't pick them up, but one of the things that happens when you're trying to pull we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit on podcast editing. When you're attempting to pull like a filler word out, like an or whatever, it sounds like it's easy to take that out of there, right? But leading into it, there's a breath in, and then afterwards there's a breath out. And if you just pull that word out of there, you break up that breath, and the breath doesn't
sound natural.
That's exactly right. And you do not think of that until you start editing podcasts.
And that is something I learned with the 42, where it was embrace some of the imperfections.
There has to be some imperfections.
And it's in the imperfection you find, there's beauty in this.
There's a lot of beauty in it. And you can take, live radio is a big, I just said, is a big, live radio is a big part of that, honestly, because there's a ton of imperfection in live radio, but that's why people tune in. See, that's the thing. They're not looking for perfection.
So, and pushing into that, this is one of the reasons why I do love listening to, Flip Flops and Beer and On the Road, is because what you guys are doing is very much live radio, but it's not even just like, I'm here in a studio and I'm doing this, that, and you're goofing off. You're having fun. You're interacting.
It's because we love every last second of it.
And, you get back on the road and you're like, and Nell's over there dancing, or, Flip Flops and Beer. I can hear Nell out in the living room doing this.
Oh, yeah. I'll play songs. She'll be out here and I'll play songs, just be like, I just want to see if I can get her to line dance.
Yeah.
So I'll play a song just to see if I can get up and go see if she's line dancing out here.
And you're embracing what is that imperfection and what is that human aspect.
But people connect to that.
And that's why, because it's the human aspect. We don't come to the table in all of our perfection first. We come to the table human.
Yes.
And then...
Yeah, people lean a little too much into perfection in a lot of things. And when in reality, imperfection, I think, is what brings people together.
And this is why we drink.
Right, because we are two imperfect individuals to the full extent of the word.
And, it's that humanizing element that was the core and the heart of what was supposed to be the Drunk Squirrel. What has been the Drunk Squirrel. We need to humanize first.
Yes.
And then as humans, we interact. We have
Yes.
fun. So.
Man. It feels like we've been doing this for 2 hours, but it actually is like 50 minutes. So,
hey.
but it is probably time to rein this in.
Well, this is one of those episodes where it's yes and, but no.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Rob, it's been a pleasure.
Dude, it has been a wild ride.
This is not the last time you're going to hear from Kenny and Rob and Kenny, or the Drunk Squirrel guys. This is going to be a pause, and we're going to see what happens from here in life, what happens over the next 6 months to a year, whatever happens there.
So in this pause, where can they find you?
Where can you find me? All right, I guess I'll start, and then we'll get to you.
Yeah. I've got a lot less than you do.
But I know you have a new project, or it might not be that new anymore, but it's newer than the Drunk Squirrel.
Yeah.
That you're working on, and I want everybody to be able to get to that. So, first and foremost, with Enticing Media, we, God, even in the last episode, I'm still saying with Enticing Media,
it's a perfect way to end. Let it be.
Anyway, so we're still going to produce and star in the What the Nell podcast. Nell's going to continue to do that. That is weekly. That's not going to stop anytime soon. She has knocked it out of as hard as this is for us.
Yeah.
It's every 2 weeks. She does it every single week, and she's done it for longer than we have. It's unbelievable to see what she has done through podcasting. And
she's had more guests. She's got a semi-permanent co-host for a section. I'm not sure what to call him.
It's to be admired and stand back and be in awe of.
Yes.
What she's done, because there also wouldn't be the Drunk Squirrel without Nell.
Absolutely.
There wouldn't be.
Speaking of.
There wouldn't be radio shows without Nell. None of them. None of our 3 radio shows would exist without her. Enticing Media wouldn't exist without her. What the Nell wouldn't exist without her. Drunk Squirrel wouldn't exist without her. Kenny and Nell wouldn't exist without her. So, first
Kenny
and foremost,
wouldn't exist without her.
Well, I mean, I would exist in a much lesser form.
Sitting on a couch in your underwear.
Is that a lesser form? Where'd she go?
Where'd who go?
Oh, the music was going that whole time.
This is why we wear headphones.
Anyway, so on that note, you can catch.
Oh, that eye roll behind you.
Which is good. These mics didn't pick that up. Anyway, so this is why we can't do the Drunk Squirrel anymore. We're not allowed.
This is drinking and podcasting. Woohoo!
So you can catch me weekly on. Right now on Sandcastle Radio, on Flip Flops and Beer, and on the Road with Kenny and Nell. That On the Road with Kenny and Nell is Thursday evenings, 8 o'clock Eastern. Flip Flops and Beer is Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern. And you can catch Nell for 90s Revenge on Sandcastle Radio also at 5 p.m. Eastern on a Thursday. And, yeah, that's where you can catch us.
And, hey,
Rob?
It's all good stuff that you guys have got running. So,
and Kenny and Nell, our YouTube channel. New videos every 2 weeks.
And some good videos. So I'm pulling back on a lot of media stuff, but we're running a podcast with the church.
And you keep your audio equipment in the filing cabinet?
In the filing cabinet in my office right now. We're getting to the point where we're going to set up an actual studio. But
I like it.
Yeah, we got to get a couple of the rooms cleaned and some stuff prepped, but we're doing a project there called Bible in a Year with Pastor Robin and Rob. So that's Pastor Robin and I reading through
really?
With the church. Yeah, I know.
Pastor Robin and Rob it's Pastor Robin and you.
It's not Jimmy John and Joey Jubin. But it's her and I sitting every week talking through what is Bible in a Year. So it's the readings, and if you're in the church world, it makes sense. If you're a skeptic, actually, it's a great entry point. If you're not, hey. Whatever. It is a very job-specific, ministry-specific podcast.
Do you dive into the Bible, so to speak, or what exactly are you getting in? Do you get into in this podcast?
So,
Because for me, I have no desire to like read the Bible, but if there was like an audio version of it, such as this.
okay, so here's what we did in end of October. We started a huge campaign.
He started the campagne.
Yes, in the church called Bible in a Year.
Okay.
And we have an audio Bible app that we're paying for, and anyone in the church can sign up for.
Okay.
And it is daily readings that take about 20 to 30 minutes, and you just have to listen.
Okay.
If you're crunched on time, there's also this wonderful button that's 1.2, 1.5, 1.7.
That speeds it up.
Hey, did you know you can do that with podcasts too? And you can get Kenny and I in chipmunk mode at 1.5?
I did know you can do that. That is one of my struggles with listening to podcasts is I have a 4-minute drive to work. It's just not conducive for this.
Yeah, I've got about a 10 minutes. So.
For me to listen to What the Nell, it takes me about a week to get through an episode if I listen to it from work.
Don't say that too loud.
She knows, like it's difficult.
But we're running a parallel podcast with that. So it's Pastor Robin and I going through, okay, here are what the readings were this week. Here's what our reactions are. Here's what our knowledge, understanding, moments. It's a little bit of everything, but it's going through the Bible cover to cover. And it's not just like, okay, we got to go through Genesis, Leviticus, Exodus. It's well balanced because it's not just all the Old Testament and then all the New Testament. It's a little bit of Old Testament, a little bit of wisdom, and then a little bit of New Testament. And we've been doing that. We're at week 19 as of you and I sitting down and recording.
Nice.
And it's church specific, so I get it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's a great point to walk in and go, so what is in Scripture, and cover to cover, that's what we're talking through.
Most podcasts don't get to that point.
Yeah.
Most just stop after a few episodes. That's well documented.
Yeah, and we're running it every week, so it's going along with the readings. We made it through Christmas. We've only had one hiccup where Pastor Robin and I were not able to record together, but we still had an episode. And it's good. Yeah. I enjoy it. I appreciate it. This is 90% of my knowledge base with what is my profession. So it's okay. This is in that field house, and it's happening in the hours I'm in the office, and that Pastor Robin's in the office, so it's not...
Which is helpful because you're not carving out of your personal time with your family to do it.
Right, and that's the only media thing that I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future.
Are you editing it?
Yeah,
okay.
And I'm not doing much on editing.
And you're doing it on, your professional time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's...
Got it.
It's not... Because we're also doing it a video, so I can't, go in and cut out all the long pauses without making weird gaps.
Right.
But it's just, straight through. Here's where we're at. We're embracing the moments. Like last week, we had the camera cut out in the last 5 minutes, which was perfect because she and I had started singing VeggieTales.
Wow.
And the camera
now
conveniently cut out.
Now, see, that I would watch.
Well, thank God the camera stopped.
Well, if you ever grow this thing to the point where you need to outsource your production value.
Well, and that's...
I know somebody.
That's been a conversation, and part of the conversation in it is doing it this way right now. We put a lot of money into the Bible app, so we had to pay for what is the church subscription for that. We've got, the monthly fee for we're using Libsyn for the podcast.
Oh, right, yes. Which is something Nell uses that for her podcast. I still use, Cast Plus.
Yeah, and I used Libsyn for the 42, so I mean it's the one that I prefer and I'm partial to.
Well, same. With her. So
I mean those costs are there, and it would be great to outsource. We're not at that point yet.
Of course not.
Now we have had a good response and interaction from the congregation. And
you'll get there.
Yeah, and again, it's all internal. And the other side to it is okay, we're running this for the year alongside Bible in a Year, but the question has already been proposed: what's next?
Yeah,
What happens at the end of this year? And are we continuing that podcast or something in that vein?
Yeah.
So
maybe you branch off of it and do something else.
Well, we're not reading through the Bible in a year again.
No, you didn't. No. There's a specific stopping point at the end.
Yes, we get the revelations. Yay!
Yeah, you're at the end. You can't. It's not like Yeah.
The world has ended. Move on. But I mean, that's where I can appear consistently with the media stuff. I'm going into a period where I'm going to be finishing a lot of stuff to become a pastor, full-fledged pastor, and that's just going to be education and time-consuming because I've got to do it's called clinical pastoral education, and that's sitting with people in hospitals, and that's going to be a lot of time.
Yeah,
so
it's also deep.
It's going to require some alcohol.
Yeah, that's a deep emotional challenge for any human.
Yeah. So, and because part of it is going to be sitting with people as they are dying.
Yeah.
So
that's, yeah.
And that's what I've got going on in the next 6 to 9 months is just starting these different bits. So,
yeah, this is really the perfect time to pause this.
Yeah, and I mean, I will make background appearances and things. The Bible
background appearances.
I'll stalk you. Maybe in one of the videos, just kind of lean in.
I was gonna say you're just
out.
gonna be like wandering on our deck or something like that.
Ignore the nose and the hands looking out over your window.
So, I will say that I just got the alert from my MacBook that because I'm not plugged in because I have all the ports used. So we are low on battery.
All right. Time
so
to save.
the Mac is going to stop us whether we want to or not. So I think we wrap this up now. Is that the end of?
That's it.
Okay. Rob, it has been a pleasure. This is not the last time you will hear from Kenny and Rob.
No,
we'll be around. Check us out in our other adventures. And listen in if we happen to just drop something for you just randomly, just out of the blue.
Hey, it'll be fun.
So,
and Kenny,
anyway.
It's been great.
It's been great. Rob,
and to everyone out there listening, it has been amazing. Thank you for being alongside,
yes.
for coming in, the whole 9 yards. You are all amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Drunk Squirrel podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode. And this is not goodbye. This is, we'll see you later.
This is cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to The Drunk Squirrel. No need to pay a tab. Just be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and drop us a line, thedrunksquirrel82@gmail.com. Cheers.